there, my name is Booka and welcome to Band Together. So it's been a hot minute since I released my last vlog because I have been on tour, so apologies for that. Back for a few more weeks now, so I'm going to try to get in as much as I can before I leave again. So last episode I mentioned that I wanted to discuss how to support somebody who is living with a mental illness. I don't have time to discuss like short-term and long-term strategies, so I'm just going to discuss the short-term, the initial support that you can offer somebody who is struggling. So this is focusing mostly on areas like depression and anxiety because that's generally what we most commonly see. Two scenarios. One is that you are approached by somebody and they inform you that they are struggling, that they are feeling depressed or they are feeling anxious. And then I'm also going to discuss how you approach somebody who you suspect is struggling but hasn't actually come and told you about it yet, which can be a really difficult conversation to have. So we'll start off with how to respond to somebody who comes and approaches you and lets you know that they are struggling, that they're not okay. Initially, what you want to do when somebody comes and informs you that they are not coping is firstly to thank them, because it takes a lot of guts to actually approach anybody and disclose that you're not coping. So just say thanks. Thanks for coming and feeling like you can approach me, and I'm really glad you did. Second thing to keep in mind when you are approached by somebody in this situation is that you need to kind of keep your mouth a bit shut and just listen. Essentially, you are not there to tell that person what to do or to chime in with what you believe is going to be the best solution to their problem. What we need to do is just shut up and listen. A lot of us have forgotten how to really listen and actively engage and take in what somebody is saying. So just listen, just be an ear for that person. The third thing that I think that I try to practice when somebody is coming to me is to assure that person that the conversation stays between you and them. So it can be really daunting informing somebody that you have a mental illness or that you believe you might have a mental illness, because for a lot of people it's a very private issue. So just make sure that that person knows that you're not going to go tweet about the conversation you're having with them later. The fourth thing that is important is to make sure that that person knows that you don't have all the answers. It's okay not to know what to say and not to know what the right course of action is in a situation like this. Let that person know that. Say things like, I don't know what to do in this situation, but we'll work it out together and I'm here to support you and we'll get through this together. You're not alone. It is extremely comforting just knowing that you have somebody by your side and that you're not in that alone. So the fifth thing to do is to just validate and empathize with somebody. So comments and responses like, hey, that sucks. I'm really sorry you're going through that. Is there anything that I can do to support you? Or, hey, you don't deserve that. And that sounds like it's really hard. Just things like that, just validate their feelings, because the last thing you want to do is to make statements about positive things in that person's life that should be buffering them from experiencing what they're experiencing. Things like, but your family's so great, or you have a great job, or things like that. People don't forget all of the positive things in their life just because they are living with a mental illness. In fact, it's those things that make them feel ashamed of experiencing sadness or anxiety or any type of mental illness for that matter. So we can leave those things out and we can focus on things like, you're suffering right now and that sucks. The last thing that I would suggest you do in a situation like this is to bring up the topic of getting help. Have you thought about going and getting professional help for this? It sounds like something that, a psychologist could maybe help you with. Perhaps you want to go and talk to somebody professional. Things like this is what you can say. If somebody shuts it down and does not want to hear it, just leave it. You don't have to push it. A lot of people don't know where to start when it comes to getting help. So just a quick tip, go to your GP. That should be the first stop for anybody who's experiencing a mental illness. And if this person wants to get help or doesn't know where to start, you can pass this information on now. GPs can sort you out and refer you to really good psychologists and psychiatrists who can then give you the specialised treatment that you need. In Australia, I know that we have a mental health plan which allows you 10 subsidised psychology sessions. The government will pay the majority of each psychology session, and they are expensive, so this is like a really good deal. You have to go to your GP to sort yourself out a mental health plan though. So do encourage where you can and where it is appropriate, of course, for that person to seek help, because recovery does happen with the right tools. What about those tricky situations though, where we can see some big behavioural changes in somebody and we suspect that something's going on for them and that they're not coping, but they haven't come and told us about it? That's a difficult conversation to start. So how do you go about that? First thing that I would stress is to make sure that you are somewhere quiet to have that conversation, and that you have the time to be able to carry out that conversation, as long as it needs to go without being interrupted or like disturbances coming and interjecting halfway through. Once you've found this time and place, sit down with the person and just ask how they're going. You don't have to launch straight into, I've noticed that you are sleeping heaps and you're not seeing your family or friends and you're not going to work. That comes later. But just start off by asking them how they're going. Give them the opportunity to disclose to you what's happening of their own volition. If they respond with a fluff answer like, yeah, great, you can then list some things that you might have observed, but do this gently and keep it really objective. Don't let your emotions get involved. You need to keep it factual. I've noticed that you have missed several days of work in the past month, or I've noticed that when you were out and about in social situations, you aren't saying much and you seem quite withdrawn, and I'm just wondering if everything's going okay with you. Behavioural changes generally don't occur unless something is going on in somebody's life or they're experiencing something new. Behaviours are symptoms of our life. If the person does not want to talk about it, you'll know pretty quickly. They'll say like, I don't want to discuss this, or something else to that effect. Don't push it, just leave it. You've opened yourself up, you've put yourself in that situation and you have asked. It's their choice whether they want to tell you or not. So don't push it and don't press them. If you notice things don't change over a long period of time, you can ask them again, hey, how are you going? Just leave it at that. However, if they do then disclose to you that they are not doing well, just follow the steps that I discussed before. I hope this has been of some help. I will discuss in more detail how to support somebody long-term who's living with a mental illness. But for now, this is how you have those initial conversations about mental health and how you can support the people around you when and if they do come to you, or when you go to them. Next vlog I release is going to be, I'm going to be talking to my good friend Hayley about her work with female prisoners. So we're going to discuss basically the justice system, people who are in prison, and the link between being in prison and committing crimes and our mental health, our cognitive capacity, and our brain functioning. So really looking forward to that one, and I hope you will tune in then. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a lovely day.
Let it destroy you like it destroyed us.